A game of sticks and wings. A world apart. Have you ever watched a human play baseball? I remember that as the first truly strange question I ever asked my colleagues after that day. We were sitting in the high-domed Arboretum Lounge of Easterly City, one of the shining research enclaves on Min 4. A gentle hum of air filters and distant chirps of captive insects provided white noise while we sipped nutrient broth. My fellow Amaya scientists, all preened and feather sleek, turned to stare at me as if I'd grown an extra wing. The question was bizarre to them. Humans playing baseball? To them, as to me before my encounter, human customs were often incomprehensible. A great many of their traditions, if you probe deep enough, trace back to violence, hunting, warfare, territorial disputes. So what on Min 4 could make me speak of a human game with such admiration? Baseball, I discovered, was something else entirely. It lacked a grim ancestral undertone, at least from what I learned. It seemed to exist purely because at some point in their long, tangled history, a human picked up a stick and thought, "Why not see how far we can hit this small ball?" And the idea of a structured team game blossomed. It was about joy, strategy, skill, and camaraderie, no direct echoes of predation or slaughter. Such a concept felt precious and rare, given how alien humans seemed to us. I point to Research City on a dangerous world. Let me give context. Min 4 is a lush, biodiverse planet far from our homeworld. Our species, the Amaya, have always been fascinated by ecosystems that mirror ours in surprising ways. On Min 4, we see evolutionary parallels. Soaring avian creatures not so unlike our distant ancestors, towering flora similar to our ancient rainforests, yet all more dangerous. Here, predators still roam untamed. The place brims with hungry maws and venomous stings, making study difficult. So we build research cities, enormous enclaves encased in protective barriers. Walls of alloy and electric nets overhead keep out beasts that see us as dinner. Within these safe zones, we amass 100,000 brilliant minds from across the galaxy's many species. We conduct experiments, catalog new beetle species, map fungal communication networks, and debate evolutionary theories late into the night. The cities themselves are clinical but marvelously equipped. Every corridor, walkway, and garden inside them is meticulously designed, both for our comfort and for minimal ecosystem contamination. Outside, pristine wildness. Inside, a controlled bubble of civilization. Over the years, not just Amaya gathered here. The Tak-Tak with their chittering diplomacy, the UNK with their crystalline forms, and even the high-temperature loving U.P.AO Rockveo found ways to establish embassies in these cities. It became a galactic research hub. Humans, however, were a controversial addition. They are known predators, biologically omnivorous and historically prone to violence. For decades, the debate raged in our council halls. Should we allow human researchers to set foot on Min 4? The elaborate security existed for a reason, after all. But fate has a sense of humor. The first humans here were not carefully vetted scientists. They were stranded travelers rescued by one of our supply freighters. With them safely hosted in North Point City, and no incidents arising, hearts softened. Eventually, a proper human research mission was approved. They arrived, scholars of ecology and anthropology, keen to learn from us and the planet's life. At first, they stayed in North Point City. I lived and worked in Easterly City then, absorbed in my world of insect classification, so busy I hardly noted their presence. But humans, curious beings that they are, soon sought broader experience and moved to Easterly for a time. Still, I barely noticed. They were just another delegation among many. My lab overflowed with beetles, and my mind with data. I had no spare attention for these strange newcomers. That changed the day I took a forced break from my lab. My supervisor, worried I'd go mad examining thoraxes all day, insisted I stretch my wings in the open air. Flying 100 meters above the city outskirts, I spotted one of them, a lone human strolling near the perimeter wall. A bizarre sight, Amaya rarely walked there. That zone was deliberately empty of buildings or distractions. It's meant as a sterile buffer, so security can zap intruders. Yet this human wandered aimlessly, as if seeking something intangible. I hovered, curious. We pride ourselves on rational scientific minds, yet we are as susceptible to curiosity as any child. Soon, I found myself following him from above, puzzling over his purpose. After a half hour, I realized I was out of excuses. He must have known I was there because suddenly he waved upward, acknowledging my presence. Surprised and embarrassed, I considered fleeing. But he seemed harmless. Curiosity won again. I landed softly, a few meters away. He was tall to my eyes, and broad, with that thick human bone structure. He wore simple clothes, carried a small device at his hip. I had no translator with me, foolish oversight. But he had one. Through his mechanical voice box, he introduced himself as Dr. Martin Scott. He asked politely why I, an Amaya researcher, was spying on him. I explained my curiosity. What was he doing pacing the empty grassland near the perimeter? He laughed, a low rumble, and said he just needed space to walk. Our cities, so carefully designed for flyers like me, are cramped for a biped who prefers long strides. The perimeter area was empty and perfect for a stroll. No mystery, just a human stretching his legs. Then came the comment that changed everything. He lamented the wasted potential of this grassy space, wondering aloud what if we installed a baseball diamond there. A place for humans to play a favorite sport. My translator hiccuped, rendering baseball into some nonsense phrase. With gentle persistence, Martin explained baseball's essence. A bat, a ball, running around a special diamond-shaped field. No violent undertones, just a simple, joyful competition between teams. That notion intrigued me. Amaya have games, sure, mostly aerial catching contests, cooperative balancing acts, or personal endurance challenges. Team-based adversarial sports? Rare. Something about hitting a ball and running around a diamond sounded delightfully pointless and therefore pure in motive. We parted ways that day. I returned to my beloved Beatles, but 2 notes I wrote down. 1. Learn more about baseball. 2. Talk more with Dr. Scott. The next day, I planned to invite Martin for a drink. Humans consume many liquids, not always involving dead animals, I hoped. But duty called. A shuttle to the highlands to gather new insect specimens. By the time I returned, 3 days had passed. Then 2 more in the lab to process my samples. Time slipped away. Eventually, a reminder in my notes prompted me. Find Dr. Scott. Ask about baseball. Point 3. The seeds of an idea. When we finally met again, it was on a terrace by the Eastern River. A simple arrangement. I overcame my apprehensions and invited him. We chatted easily. I brought news. I'd inquired about using city maintenance bots to shape a patch of grass into a proper baseball field. Martin's eyes lit up. He promised to gather enough humans to form 2 teams. I marveled at his confidence. Were there even enough humans on Min 4 for that? He assured me yes, just enough. Mostly scientists and technicians from their research mission, some reluctant, but willing. He explained that professional skill wasn't necessary. The joy lay in the attempt. A baseball field would bring a slice of Earth's cultural heritage here, a harmless entertainment bridging species. We filed a petition to the city council. They were perplexed but saw no harm. A carefully mowed lawn, a few chalk lines, permission granted. Word spread rapidly. Humans playing a mysterious game in public? Thousands of bored scientists, grounded by recent rain, which stirred predators outside the walls, halting all expeditions, now had free time. They flocked to the idea. Our baseball day drew near. 2. The Great Game Day. Rain delayed our first attempt. Heavy sheets of water and swirling winds pinned us inside for a day. Next morning, skies cleared to a fresh blue. The air felt alive, scents of damp grass and distant flowers invigorating. Perfect weather for this odd spectacle. We set up the field at the perimeter zone. Lawnmower bots trimmed the grass into a diamond shape. The humans placed bases, a home plate, and a pitching mound. A scattering of bleachers and stands were assembled hastily, normally used for official announcements or graduation ceremonies for new researcher cohorts. Today, they would host spectators from multiple species. When the hour came, I was astonished at the turnout. Thousands arrived, including delegates from TAC, UNK, and even the U.P.AO Rockveo. I spotted a single U.P.AO Rockveo perched heavily on reinforced bleachers, a chrome-armored figure from a blistering hot world, now witnessing a gentle human pastime. Why? Perhaps pure curiosity. In the sky beyond the netting, a flock of Nazias circled. Predator birds, large and aggressive. They seldom ventured near the city's netting, but the day after rain made them restless. Still, I wasn't overly concerned. The netting and zappers had protected us for decades. I tried to understand baseball's rules from a pamphlet Martin had prepared. It explained pitching, batting, running the bases. Teams took turns playing offense and defense. Offense tried to hit the ball and run around the bases to score runs. Defense tried to get them out. Simple yet layered. The game began. The human pitcher, a tall woman named Dr. Freya Sharp, stood on the mound, a ball in hand. The batter, Martin's teammate, gripped a wooden bat. My heart fluttered strangely. I'd read about pitches reaching lethal speeds. But these were amateurs tossing slower. The ball sailed toward the batter who swung and missed. So began an intricate dance of strategy and reflex. At first, I misunderstood. I thought the pitcher aimed at the batter. But I soon realized she aimed for the catcher behind, trying to elude the batter's swing. The batter's goal: hit that ball and send it flying. The crowd, alien and human, leaned forward, intrigued. Even the U.P.AO Rockveo tilted slightly. The first few innings passed without big hits. The ball bounced on the ground, or popped up weakly. Yet each time a batter connected and the ball soared, a wave of cheering washed through the stands. We Amaya learned quickly. When the ball is hit well, you celebrate with noise. Children joined in, squealing with delight, though they asked why no one attacked anyone else. Good question, child. This is a friendly conflict. Gradually, I noticed the subtlety. The pitcher tried different spins, making the ball curve unpredictably. The batter sometimes chose not to swing, hoping for a walk. The rules Martin had explained: if the pitcher fails to throw good pitches enough times, the batter gets to walk freely to first base. Humans had designed a balanced system rewarding patience and skill. It was mesmerizing. The real tension emerged when runners stood on bases. Should a runner dash for the next base, risking getting tagged out, or wait safely? This risk calculation, this interplay of caution and boldness, mirrored something deeply universal: choosing the right moment to act, to gamble for a better outcome. Midway, a runner tried to steal second base. The crowd gasped, humans and aliens together, as the defense scrambled to catch him out. The runner slid on the grass, kicking up a spray of green. His attempt failed. He was tagged out by a fielder. Instead of anger, I saw acceptance. The team huddled, still smiling. The other team offered nods of respect. No hostility, just a shared love of the challenge. I saw no sign of the cruelty humans were infamous for. On the contrary, if a player got hurt, a ball grazing a shoulder, the game paused. Everyone rushed to ensure they were okay. Compassion and cooperation coexisted with competition. This nuance amazed me. Perhaps humans had long learned to channel their aggressive instincts into safe rituals, like sport, building empathy on top of rivalry. As the game progressed, I noticed Martin's team starting strong. Martin himself managed a good hit, advancing a teammate around the bases. Applause and cheers erupted. Even we Amaya clapped our wings. I still rooted for good hits from both sides. The concept of my team didn't fully take hold of me, but I understood why humans loved it, an emotional tapestry woven from simple actions. Overhead, the Nazia flock circled lower than usual. The presence of thousands of living beings below must have enticed them. I glanced at the netting's red warning lights, still glowing, indicating full power. Secure as always, I thought. But fate intervenes. A distant roar broke the rhythm of the game. A shuttle, unscheduled, approaching with engines howling. The crowd turned to look. No flights were due. Something must be wrong. The shuttle's intakes gaped open, unusual during final approach. Then it happened. The flock of Nazia, startled, rose upward, and collided with the shuttle's path. Horrified, we watched as giant birds got sucked into intakes. Smoke and sparks flew. The shuttle spun wildly, crashing into a communication tower and tearing a hole in the netting before slamming somewhere into the city's far side, exploding in flame. Chaos erupted. Shocked silence, then screams. We stared at the distant plume of smoke. Emergency response would come, yes, but the bigger horror was the gaping hole in the net, allowing predators inside. Now the Nazia poured through, attracted by panic, potentially turning the peaceful gathering into a feeding frenzy. With zappers offline in this quadrant, as indicated by dead warning lights, no defenses stood between us and hungry killers. People scrambled under the bleachers. Humans and Amaya pressed together. Our baseball day turned into a survival scenario. A scream. A Nazia dived at a group of Amaya children playing catch. They scattered at the last second, instincts honed by millennia of predation, and scurried under the stands. Good, they were safe. But now the field was open, and humans stood out there, Martin among them, exposed targets. The Nazia attacked Martin first. I froze, heart in my throat. The bird grabbed him, claws raking, and he shouted in pain. I hovered indecisively. Help him how? I was no fighter. But Dr. Sharp rushed in, with a baseball bat raised high. She swung repeatedly, trying not to hit Martin while driving the predator off. Eventually, a strike to the beak forced it to release him and retreat. Martin bleeding, Dr. Sharp cursing, we stumbled toward the bleachers. Shadows flickered overhead as other Nazia eyed us. Another dived at me. Time slowed. Now I truly understood fear. Instinct roared, fly now. But flying singled me out. I hesitated, terrified. Martin, though injured, stepped before me, bat ready. Another perfect swing, and the Nazia's head fell away in a gruesome arc. A home run indeed, if that term could apply to decapitation. I was saved by human reflexes honed in a game and courage forged in adversity. We reached the bleachers, joined others in cramped safety. The predators landed and tried to pull victims out. But now we had 20 humans with bats, turning them from sports equipment to weapons. The Nazia, formidable in the sky, were clumsy on the ground. Each attempted attack ended with them battered away. After several tries, the flock realized their mistake. One by one, they took flight and backed off. The standoff lasted about half an hour until emergency response shuttles arrived. All this time, the U.P.AO Rockveo observed calmly, occasionally using a hidden electric discharge to repel a curious Nazia. It apologized afterward for damaging native wildlife. The absurdity of that moment, amid carnage, a giant armored alien apologizing for self-defense, would amuse me later. 2.4 Aftermath and Reflection. Eventually, the crisis passed. Minimal casualties, amazingly. Martin's wounds were treatable. Some injuries, some terror, but we survived. The baseball field, once a scene of joyful confusion, now bore signs of a tragic twist. Yet, as we dispersed, a strange consensus emerged. This event, disastrous as it was, did not sour our view of baseball. Instead, it heightened our respect for humans. They had risked themselves to protect me and others. Without Martin's intervention, I'd be prey. Without Dr. Sharp's decisive strike, Martin might have died. A week later, once repairs were made, we held another baseball game, smaller and more controlled. This time, extra security measures ensured no predators could intrude. I attended again, less naive and more appreciative. I understood the game better, and admired the human ability to turn a field of grass into a stage for skill and camaraderie. From that day on, whenever someone asked me about humans, I didn't dwell on their violent past. Instead, I spoke of baseball. A game that existed purely for fun, a window into a gentler side of their complex nature. A game that made them risk their lives to save a fellow scientist, an alien, without hesitation. Later, Martin left Menfor, returning to Earth. We corresponded. When eventually I visited Earth, another grand adventure of my life, he took me to see a professional baseball match. The skill and speed were breathtaking. The crowd's roars deafened me. Yet I never forgot the first amateur game I saw. The one played in a strange city on a dangerous planet, witnessed by aliens and predators, ending in chaos and heroism. 3. Final thoughts. So have you watched a human play baseball? If not, you should. Beyond the ball and bat, you see the essence of humanity, cooperation amid competition, strategy without malevolence, courage under pressure. They created baseball not from necessity, but from a whim, a desire to test skill, enjoy victory, and share defeat honorably. If you dig into human customs, yes, you find disturbing histories, violent roots. But dig into baseball, you find something clean, joyful. A game forged by their capacity for imagination and fair play. For me, that realization was as unexpected and thrilling as discovering a new beetle species. It broadened my understanding of what humans are capable of, both good and strange. And if I had to choose one memory to define my impression of humans, it might be that moment Martin swung his bat against a monstrous predator to protect an Amaya he barely knew. A scene impossible to forget, weaving together all the contradictions and wonders of interspecies contact. Humans do what they do for reasons even they often can't fully explain. But baseball? Baseball needs no explanation. It's just fun, and in a galaxy of countless complexities, that's reason enough. By the time I finish recounting this tale to curious colleagues in the Arboretum Lounge, they stare wide-eyed. They had asked about the day Easterly City was overrun by carnivorous aliens, and ended up learning about baseball. Some shake their heads, baffled. Others smile, intrigued. A few decide maybe they'll watch a game someday, if humans bring their bats and balls again. I smile at their reactions. That's what it means to share stories across species, each tale a diamond in the rough, waiting to be polished into understanding. So again, I say, watch a human play baseball. You might learn more about their soul than from 1,000 scholarly treatises on human nature. Just be sure the nets are fully charged, and maybe keep a bat handy just in case.